Got a quick little project to do this morning. This is original Mopar product for my Dodge Ram. This is called the spare tire winch or spare tire carrier. This basically bolts up underneath the bed to a big bracket, and then this thing goes in the hole in the middle of my spare tire there. And this basically is a shaft that goes on here and comes out to a spot right here where you can put in the jack handle in your tire change kit and rotate it to lower the spare down when you want to get it off, and then crank it and winch it back up into position. And what happened on the old one, and it happened on two of my Dodges, on one Dodge the cable got corroded and snapped, and on this one this whole piece right here got so corroded that it actually folded and let the tire fall off while I was going down the road. And the tire fell off. We were doing about, luckily we weren't on the highway, we were doing about 35 miles an hour on a side road, and the spare tire fell off. And the bad part was, it was on the very first trip out with our brand new fifth wheel trailer. So the tire went underneath the fifth wheel, bounced up, and smashed off about a 2-foot section of the ABS plumbing for the sewer system. And luckily the tanks were empty, so nothing came out all over the road. But when we get to the campground, I basically spent that next morning driving to a hardware store and getting the pieces I needed in repair sleeves to fix the plumbing. But, you know, things happen. So I've been driving around with this spare in the back of the truck for a while now, and it becomes a real hassle because I usually like to put the bicycles up in that front area there when we're pulling the fifth wheel. And I'm running out of room, and that's a big spare. You know, these are pretty big tires on this thing. They're not big mutters or anything, they're just big because it's a 1-ton truck. So it takes up too much room, and I want to get it out of there. So I finally broke down and decided to buy this. The dealer wanted like $140 for this thing or something like that. I don't know. I found an online dealer that sold this to me for somewhere around $100, which is still, I don't know, I'll have to put the prices up because I honestly don't even remember what I paid for it now. I do know that I got a much better deal online than I could have gotten anywhere else. This was actually somebody local too here in Massachusetts that sells genuine Mopar parts at a discount online, so ended up coming in fairly quickly. But now to the root of the problem. Well, I can show you on here. You see the bracket, it's threaded. So the bolts actually go down from the top through clearance holes and thread into this bracket. So here we are into the truck. Here's the very badly rusted part that failed. You can see it's completely rotted out. And so it's a good idea. This brings up a good point. Not a bad idea to get underneath your truck if it's getting a little bit old and take a gander at this device and see what kind of condition it's in, because you know, twice I've had these spare tires fall off. You know, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Something like that, right? So, point being is that I should have known better than to let this get like this. I should have checked this one and maybe caught it. All right. So, anyways, so what we got is, here's the bracket, and you can see those are the ends of the bolts that come down through the clearance hole through this big pan-shaped, or this large wide support right here. So there are no holes in the bed that allow you access to the tops of these bolt heads. Not that easy. So the only way you can get to these is to stick a wrench up on the top in this space, which is only a couple inches tall, where I'm putting my hand, and get on the heads. The problem is I can feel that they're pretty rusted, and I was able to get a wrench on one after finally figuring out what size it was. And the problem then is you've got like very little leverage from this angle, and they're rusted pretty tight. So what I want to do is I want to maybe grind or cut these off. So if I take off the threaded part off of this bracket, then the bracket should come off. But to make my life easier, what I want to do is I want to get the bracket out of the way So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is use my nice plasma cutter and just make a cut. As you can see, this thing's like the center part of the winch is sandwiched between two plates. So if I cut here, cut there, should be able to get that off. And this is just easy because this is just a pin you pull out. And I think that's going to let me take that right off. So that was easy. Oh yeah, and that's the other reason. If you notice the design of this thing, instead of having the flange go this way and the bolts over here, and then a flange go this way and the bolts over there, this one, it's different. Or is it different? I better double check that. My point is, the plan with the plasma cutter is to just go zip right across here and zip right across here and drop this whole section off and just leave these ears left up there to grind off. Ah, alright, I just double checked, it is the same. So yeah, you can see the bolts are in there. So in order for me to grind those off, I've got to get access to that. So that's why I want to cut this sucker. So let's fire up that plasma cutter. Alright, so here's the unit. I cut it off. I would have liked to have cut it off closer to the top there, but the problem is with the plasma cutter and this being in the way, what I did was I cut on one side and then banged it over with a hammer to bend it to give me a little more clearance and get in there and cut this side. And you can see it's one of the toughest things about being under the truck and doing this is there's a huge shower of hot sparks that are flying down on you. And I'm wearing a leather apron and my long sleeve welding shirt, my welding gloves, full helmet on, but there's a gap at the top of the helmet there, and I could feel the sparks trying to set my hair on fire. So I repositioned myself where it was safer, but that made it more difficult to get the clearance. But I got it off, and then of course the inside of this has some sort of like a rubber or composite wheel, and that was catching fire and burning and making awful smoke. So I was glad to get that out of the way. Now all I've got is some brackets in the way, and I think I'm going to use the grinder on those. Okay, so now I'm going to switch to the Milwaukee angle grinder. I got a cutoff wheel on there. We'll try that first, and a face shield, and see if we can't get that off. Alright, so now you can see I ground off a couple of these, and what I did was I ground off the part of the metal that actually on the original bracket contained the threads that the bolt locked into. I've ground that off flush with this flat metal part right here, and now you can just kind of see the little circle right there, and that's the end of the bolt. So now I should be able to take a punch, and if I put a punch right on the center of that bolt, I should be able to actually bang it and pop it right out. And then once I pop them both off, this metal bracket should come off. One down, one to go. Out with the old,